Dumela, Salbona, Sat Pase, Namaste, Obshin, Dubra Otra, Assalamu alaikum, Hotep, Buenas noches, bonsoir. Good evening, folks. This is Dorielle Inez Larrier of Larrier's Education and Resource Network, where I plant seeds to help you grow. Welcome back to Monday night. Welcome back to the digital couch. Looking forward to having all of you join in. I already see you coming in. Excellent. You know what we do here on the digital couch? We engage in critical conversations to influence and impact our folks with really tantalizing conversations, and tonight is like none other. You know, I will always sit on the couch with people who are of note, and I believe everybody is of note because everybody has power in their story. Well, tonight we are going to have I guess I'll call it a pop-up, because even though I had one idea for a conversation tonight, I saw something on the net that I said, we got to chat about this. So sitting on the couch with me right there is Dr. David Canton. And some people might recognize him from the North. Some people might recognize him from the ATL. And now some people recognize him from Florida. And Dr. David Canton is a professor, doctor, of Africana Studies. And I'm going to let him do some introduction for himself, because his academic home has just changed. And so we want to talk, of course, about his progress and process, but also we're going to talk some talk tonight. And again, this is almost like a response to an op-ed piece that I noticed and that he was involved in over the weekend in a group that we are a part of. And so we wanted to share that with you. Please, of course, as you know, I want you to share this out. I can only share to so many people. He can only share to so many people. But once you start getting into what this conversation is about, you're going to be like, yeah, there's a whole lot of people who need to be a part of this conversation. So also, if you are going to drop a comment, give us a moment to actually be able to respond to it, but we will do the best we can. So hear ye him, Dr. David Canton, and he's going to share who he is and why he is sitting on my couch tonight.
Good evening, and thank you, Dorielle, for inviting me. Like I said, I was on Facebook giving a response to a question, and next minute she responded, "Come on this couch." I'm like, okay, let's make that happen. So I'm Dr. David Canton. I'm the director of the African American Studies program at the University of Florida down here in Gainesville, the Swamp. I was at Connecticut College for the last 17 years, 2003 to 2020. But I'm glad that she reached out, and I'm still in contact with some former students, some alumni online. So this is a great conversation and opportunity. For those of you that don't know, I got my BA in history from Morehouse College, my master's in Black Studies from The Ohio State University, and my PhD in history from Temple University. I do 20th century African American history. I teach a class on hip hop. I do civil rights, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent, excellent. So let's pop into the conversation and just sort of fly off on what happened. So we could say, and I will say this in love, what had happened was there was a post, and I'm going to see if I can pull it up. There was a post that was actually shared, and it had to do with talking white. Talking white. And there was an expounding on the talking white piece by some of the people that were in the group. And it was basically just okay, you know, what do you think? What are your thoughts? And there seemed to have been an interesting diatribe about perspective, about what that means in different spaces. And the response was a little bit, I don't know. It was just interesting. Let me just say it was interesting. So I wanted to delve into that because even though we are in 2021, and my response was, are we still having this conversation? Mm-hmm. Can't we just talk? Can't we just talk? But the reality is for those people, and I know the new term is what BIPOC. I don't even know how to say it. Is it BIPOC? Is that people saying BIPOC?
Right.
That realistically, people of that, and I'll say people of African ancestry because we are diasporic. People of African ancestry always have to walk in multiple spaces. And so one thing that I wanted to sort of put into the conversation is a poem, and actually just one line of a poem from County Cullen, and it's "We Wear the Mask," and the essence of that poem is, depending on the spaces that you are in, you definitely have to put on a mask, or let's just say wear different masks. So that's part of the conversation this evening. And Dr. Canton made a response to someone, and so the statement that we're going to focus on is it's about perspective. So do you want to sort of hop back into that point that you made, and then we'll go from there?
Right. So thank you. So the post was about acting white, and then I responded. But as I thought about after this conversation, I think it's all about perspective. So when white people say acting white, I agree with the post. Right. The assumption is Black people inherently, how we speak, how we dress, our cultural mores, all that is less than, and you want to be white rather than speaking, learning how to speak properly is just the rules of the game. I'm not trying to be white. I'm just following these rules of the game. That's fine. Now, for African Americans, we'll say acting white has a different connotation. And I think the connotation is not in, we like to think, well, not about being educated. It's like what Carter G. Woodson's saying, shout out to the Black History Month, miseducation. That there's a history where there's some African Americans who go to college, come back, and just, either become judgmental with the community they come out of. Right? I know I went to college, right? I stopped eating pork. I came back preachy. Y'all need to stop. And then it becomes hypercritical of Black people. We don't do anything right. This is why we're behind. So you start talking that way, or you come off that way, that's when I think from African Americans saying, yo, you acting white. You just had the fish sandwich last week. You do all these things. You were just with me 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Came back. Yeah, not that we don't like the education, but there was a miseducation, what Carter G. Woodson would say. And then you're not around the neighborhood, or you're not engaged in Black institutions or organizations. Don't mean you all have to live in the same block, whether it's financial, your time, but it just seems like you come across hypercritical of Black institutions and the Black community you're saying you want to help. It's no different than the social reformers of the 19th century, where middle-class white Protestant women will go into and preach about what Black people need to do. You see what I mean? Like, don't braid your head on the corner. Don't do this. You hear that, some respectability politics. So I think that's where the tension comes in, when it's not about behavior modification, it's racism, oppressive racism. You can pull your jeans up all day as a community group, but still be twice unemployed. So I think that's when it acts from a Black perspective. That's what I was trying to say on that post.
Right.
And it's not about division and divide, making the division, about a conversation, because we all have to check ourselves or be self-reflective. When I do go to these neighborhoods, do I feel some type of way because somebody got gator shoes? Or I feel really some anger that if they don't improve, we're going to be falling behind, when they're not the problem. The problem is racism. That's why the response is, you acting white. And then you get all angry.
Right. So now for those,
check yourself.
Right. So for those people who are not aware, I may be able to screenshot this and then put this into the chat, into our chat on the platforms. Just so you know, I'm actually streaming on my personal page, my business page, and on YouTube. So if you don't catch it somewhere, you can catch it other places. So the original post was a picture of, I really wish I could show this. Now, I know this is going to be backwards. Sorry, but literally we came up with this at the last minute. But this is what it says, right? So here we go. So it's a figure that says, okay, you act white. And then down here it says, when Black people display their intelligence, they are not imitating whiteness, because intelligence is not an inherently white trait. Black excellence is real and has nothing to do with white proximity. So that was the initial post that we were talking about. And then again, Dr. Canton gave a response, and it was this whole conversation that I remember even having when I was in middle school, high school, and then of course coming to college. And so part of what you just said, I just wanted to respond to about it. There is an essence of racism, but in this situation, when we're talking about, let's say, Black with Black, not Black on Black, but Black with Black, it's almost it's an internal, and this is my perspective, it's an internal racism that we put upon ourselves, which is what I think you were discussing. We raised you, because they did it with me. We raised you on pork chops. You go away to college, you come back like, I can't do that anymore. Now you're going to tell us, excuse me, we still living fine on the pork chops. And I'm like, yeah, okay. It's just that I learned how to eat something different and I want to try it, But then when we do it, of course, with our own folks, there's like you said, there's like, you think you're better than, and there's also, right, like, don't forget where you came from. And I have to start saying to people, didn't you send me to college to get an education about certain things that you would hope I would bring back in order to improve the us?
Right.
So if I'm bringing something back that's going to improve the us, why are you smacking me upside the head about it? Right. But then, yes, there is that other, I've heard of similar transitioning with people that come from the military, like people who are in the military, they go away, they go serve in other countries. And then when they come back home, they go through a what? A transition back home. They get, I don't know if the word is reprogrammed, because they're going back into their home environment. They're going back into the community. They're going back into their family unit where they've been away. They've been, let's just say, impacted. I won't say traumatized, but depending on where you go.
Right.
Well, they have to get reacclimated to their home environment, which could very well have stayed the same. But they have then experienced all of this other stuff that now they have to say, well, how do I fit? Right? How do I fit? So in the conversation about conversation and using a vernacular that is newer or different, or something that is codified, I'll use that term, for specific spaces, my mom, and I'm sure my mom is going to pop on at some point, she'll say, I know when you've just been with your college mates.
They know.
Or she'll say, so you were just speaking to somebody from college, right? And I'm like, Mom, what you talking about? She's like, okay, now you're back to yourself. And I'm like, wait a minute. But that is myself. It is another, what I had to recognize, and what people have to recognize, is it is another layer of ourselves. It's another layer of ourselves. Thank you for that heart, whoever said that. It's another layer of ourselves. It is beneficial that any group of people, and now let me speak as a person born in the United States, when I recognize my Americanness is when I went across the waters, and I was in Ghana and I was in South Africa. And when I went, people, of course, saw me, and they just kind of like, you ain't from around here, right? They just couldn't tell where I was from until I opened my mouth. When I opened my mouth and I started speaking, they were thinking, oh, American, okay. Then they started using vernacular that I don't even attribute myself with. But because of my hue, they were thinking, well, okay, yeah, you're back, trying to be back home, but we know you from wherever. And they, of course, unified all people from the United States into, okay, you're from Brooklyn. Now, of course, I am from Brooklyn, born and bred, and I'm proud of it. But they kind of thought that all of us like live the same way. But of course, they only see what they see on television. Depending on what community they come from. And I think that I would never go to another country. I think it's rude, but it's also an American perspective, and presume that just because I'm coming to your country, that you have to speak English. And I think a group of people that I went to visit these countries with, one or two, was like, well, why do we have to learn Zulu? Why do we have to learn Setswana? Why do we have to learn, Venda? Like, why do we have to learn that? They speak English, don't they? And I was like, are you kidding? At least know how to say Sawubona. At least know how to say Dumela. Like, see a bonga, like something,
Mm-hmm.
so that you see them. And so not until I went and I did that did I was like, wow. The American thought is they'll speak English because I'm there. No, 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 no.
Right.
I won't go to Japan and do that.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go to China and do that.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go to Italy and do that. But just because I'm going to the continent, nah, that's not fair. Not fair. So at what point, like, do we encourage, and this is a conversation we talked about right before we went live, at what point do we encourage and empower our young people to
Mm-hmm.
learn that in these spaces, you need to learn two languages,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The language of your culture of origin, if you will, and then what I say as an educator, you're an educator, the academic language.
Right.
So it's
Right.
almost like three languages.
Mm-hmm.
You learn the language of your culture, whatever that is. You learn the academic language, the language of the classroom, and then the language of the boardroom, whatever that boardroom is.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do we start talking about it? At what point do we start engaging our young people?
Well, I think, like I said, so we know African American Vernacular English, AAV,
AAVE.
official language. This is all types of studies. So the challenge is like African Americans are educated inside out. So the problem is we're taught about whiteness first, rather than starting internally, where you study AAVE, the history, the culture, the whole the unique history that we have.
Pidgin English.
Right. You'll understand the other side better when you know yourself. Look how AAVE works and the logic of it. It'll help you understand English better. But we do it in reverse. We're told, drop that stuff. You won't get a job. It's holding black people back. No, racism is holding black people back. So what we're saying is, look at AAVE like a language that we speak at the cookouts, we speak at home, and it's time to explain it. And it's a language. Then you go outside of the classroom, you see how American English work. You see what I mean? So I think we have to focus how we look at our own culture. That's a value the kids are bringing to the classroom, but is devalued in the classroom. So parents make a pragmatic choice. I want, do I go in there or say, put that to the side as a hobby, or use that knowledge in the classroom rather than devalue it? I think that's the tension that we have. So again, the whole acting white thing, right? So for us, we're told to squash what we do down when we get in the classroom. Don't talk about the holiday celebration. Don't talk about Kwanzaa. Don't talk about electric slide. Don't talk about stuff you do. Just be quiet. Let them talk about pumpkin pie and rock and roll. You can sit there.
Excuse me.
Represent the culture.
Potato salad with paprika on it.
All that. Represent the culture. So my thing is, and I had this talk with some black grad students. Well, Dr. Canton, how do you be who you are? That's all I know how to be. I don't change my voice in a meeting. I keep the beats. I can't do it. I try, So, I'm not going to say, I don't do certain things culturally. I like hip hop, what I came from. So I think for us, once you get that confidence, I'm from this borough, this zip code. We do this for the holiday. We do that. And you say it with conviction. You don't have to switch up. And that's too much pressure. Man, I'm going to a board meeting. They're talking about pumpkin pie. I'm going to cave in, knowing you don't like it. Who needs that pressure? I like sweet potato pie. Well, they're going to ask, you don't have to explain nothing. Sweet potato pie. And that's it. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I've learned as we get older. There's too much energy. Life's too short. And stop what we call white worshiping. We're just worshiping whiteness. We're just putting too much pressure.
Somebody type that into the chat. Somebody type that into the chat because we need to have that on resolve.
Go to those meetings. Just do what you do. What you do? Oh, nothing. We go to Martha's Vineyard. Just rep what you Carnival, Essence Festival.
Right.
If they don't know,
West Indian Day Parade in New York.
Come on, what's that? Eastern Parkway, Carabana.
I live down the block, precisely.
My mom's doing that for years, but that's the point. So I'm to the point now. I'm not buckling under. I'm not going to hide my lunch like my kids will bring West Indian food to lunch. That's their issue. Let that go, parents. I'm telling you, let that go. You have to bring peanut butter and jelly. You could bring the red. You could bring the rice.
You talking about the red?
Come on, I've been to Ghana 4 times. You know what I mean? The
Excuse
red.
Me.
You know what I mean? Represent it. you feel so much freer than all this hiding. That's too
Right.
much stress. So I
Right.
think that's where I'm at with my kids. I tell parents that it's time not, you don't have to do that. Live your life.
Hmm.
Don't be all under scared all the time. Well, they're gonna ask, well, no, that's nothing. Whatever. It is what it is.
And I think that let's say my generation, which is your generation, and
Mhm.
we're coming from the same, let's sort of set of decades of experiencing this. Hmm. So we're called like the sandwich generation for a couple of reasons, right? So we're part of the first generation where we're still taking care of our children
Mhm.
at the same time that we're taking care of our parents who are living longer, right?
Mhm.
But we're also, I think, part of the sandwich generation, and maybe we should write about this, or maybe someone else has already written about it. I don't know. Somebody like do some research and tell me
Right.
where we, I think, are one of the first generations where we're seeing the expectations of academic prowess not necessarily being the foundation of success. Now, let me like dial that back a bit. So in and you said that you part of your wheelhouse is the hip hop generation.
Mhm.
So as we're telling young people, go to college,
Mhm.
get a degree, get a job, then make your investments and work through up through. They are also looking at people like Jay-Z, who didn't necessarily do it that way and had some interesting steps along his journey. And people are like, well, if he could do that, why? Why
Mhm.
do I have to dress this way? Well, people like him and other people who are in the hip hop, era, not everybody,
Mhm.
but if that's the life that they want to live, they're like, so why do I have to sort of learn these two languages? No, I'm gonna be myself, right? I'm gonna talk like how I talk. I'm gonna talk that talk, and they're gonna have to deal with it. They're gonna have to learn with it. And then our parents, you and I, we still have our parents saying,
Right.
sweetheart, that they're not gonna be able to wear their hair like
Yeah,
that.
no.
Darling, you better lay them edges to the side.
Yep.
Okay, I see y'all with the perm. I mean, with the locks, because I'm a lock wearer. 25 years, started at Con, and
Mhm.
just cut them off a couple of years ago, and but still doing the natural thing. But all of my family, when they came up to graduation day, and I had locks in my hair, my mother was like, "What? What did?" Turn around in the car after graduation, on the way down 95, and she's like, what did you do? I'm like,
Mm.
I'm wearing locks. She's like, she turned back around. She said, this is going to be the quickest fad I've ever seen. 30 years later,
Mhm.
I done turned so many people in my family and community to wearing locks. They were like, oh. I said, and mom, I have already been accepted to grad school because that was like the question. I've already been accepted to grad school with a full ride. I
Mhm.
always already have my first job, which I've been in the same career for over 30 years. And they're like, oh, so they're starting to see that
Right.
the nom de terre isn't necessarily what is sticking. Now, the other side to this coin is, and this is something that you as an educator, myself as an educator, we're trying to give young people and younger people that we sort of mentor in the college age, and then high schoolers and stuff. Yes, you can rock, if you're still rocking Tim's, great, that's fine, that's nice. You don't have to wear the Docksiders, you don't have to wear the what are those pants like the
Birkenstock.
khakis, the
Birkenstock.
Birkenstocks, although I do have a pair. But you don't have to do that in order, like you said, to belong. At the same time, you need to be aware
Mhm.
so that when somebody brings it up, you don't kind of look like you have egg on your face because
Mhm.
you're not aware of it.
Right.
At the same time, of course, hold on to who you are, but don't push it on other people like you gonna respect me the way I am. Because if you push it on them, they have to also recognize that they're still whoever that the person is who sits behind that desk. They're gonna do just like this.
Yep.
And in their mind is okay, we gonna let a couple of them in.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see just how far you're going to ride this thing. And when we're done with either utilizing what you bring to the table, we can very well just say, oh, thank you. Here's the best words. You're not a good fit.
Oh yeah, the good fit. Yeah.
So, right, it's just part of that reality. So, as my family or my elders taught me, listen, you still have to play by the rules. There are a number of people in our path now who are saying, no, we're going to write our own rules.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you still also have to play by somebody's rules. You have to play, not to say that you have to play by those rules, but you still gonna play by somebody's rules. So before you think that I'm gonna change everything and whatever, pay attention to how the people who, even though they're now we can walk into an office not just on a Friday for a dress down day.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those people who paved the way, they still have to answer to somebody, and it may not be them, like the us, the them that they're answering to. So when you say, hey, I want to work for this company, or I want to be the musician, or I want to, there's still a hierarchy. There's still a hierarchy, and you have to know what the hierarchy is. But
Mm-hmm.
at what point do you use the conversation that you do have to make your way in that space? So again, like, at what point do we start teaching young people there's a conversation that you have at home, there's a conversation that you have when you're in the classroom or getting into whatever that job is.
Mhm. And I think I think the reality is, I think when we see young people in high school and college, that's what youth culture is. So I think they get upset when we assume they don't know. They know when there's an interview at 9, they know to wear the business gear. They know. I think they get mad when we say it like they don't know. They know when I'm on Wednesday dressed down in Morehouse and Spelman High School, but when it's time for internship, trust me, they're gonna find that suit, put on those shoes, and do that shift. What gets them mad is when we say, well, you can't get a job. They know that. Trust me. I've been around young people a long time. When it's time to step up for the interns and the money, and they're ready. So I don't get all phased out like I used to, because guess what? I was young. You were young. That's what I call a youth culture. So
Mm-hmm.
as an adult, rather than me give them the speech how back in the day and all, they don't want to hear nostalgia. How can I help you be a better person in whatever you're trying? What field? How can I give you information? So I'm not judging. I know you're going to wear a suit when it's time. You're going to step up. You're going to speak. You're going to know all the rules. So rather than me come at what you're not doing, I'm coming, how can I help you? Because I know you're not getting there late to the interview. I know that. I don't have to tell you that. So I think that's when they get mad, when we assume they don't know that. When we assume they're going to go with the tattoos on. They know not. They know that. Now, the ones that want to be risk takers and go out and do their thing, that's fine too. I lay out the ground. There are folks who want to go that way. I lay it out. This is the challenge, access to capital, networking, and all that. So my thing is what the students' desires and passion, and give them as much information, and they can make the choice from there. You see what I mean? So if you want to be an independent entrepreneur where you can do what you want to do, it takes capital and collateral. You
Right.
got that? If not, you got to do something else, or you're going to be in mom's basement. As long as you lay out when your mom's basement, you got to follow mom's rules. So you got to know the game, whatever path you take. But again, I think students that want their independent streak, they know that. That's why they want to do independence. I don't come from they don't know. I'm just trying to give them more information. How do you get to where you're getting? So the
Mm-hmm.
key for me is always about not young people. They know this stuff. When you come across like they don't know, not everything, but some basic stuff, that's when they get kind of ticked off. I'm not gonna be there at 9 o'clock. I get that. I know I have to dress a particular way. And then the dude that wants to be independent knows I'm only dressing this way. So I already know I'm not doing corporate. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we gotta do this, 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 this. I already know I
Right.
want to do some social media, some innovative, whatever that is. So I know I want to wear shirts and no ties. Okay, how you gonna get there?
Right.
So that's how the thing is. I just try to be, cognizant that I was young once too, and I was gonna go against the grain and wear dashikis and, give it to the man and all that. I get it.
So, okay, but in that same light, the conversation that we had, whatever, 20, 30 years ago, when we were doing our thing, whatever that was, we didn't have social media.
No.
So I have to take this back a moment. That changes the game. So that which we would put on a platform, had we had it, again, we're still under our parents, and so our parents' thinking or that culture, and we would be more protective of, listen, all they have to do is type your name in,
Yeah.
and everything's gonna come up.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's definitely a level of, yes, I know it's youth culture, but there's like this, I have to say it like this, like a recklessness of, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Nobody can stop me. Okay, get it. But then you can't quote say, I'm going to sue you for discrimination, or I'm going to, sue you for discrimination because you're not giving me this job because you saw something that I did 10, 15 years ago, or whatever, when I was here with this person or doing blah, 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 or with this in my hand or what.
Right. You're right. I mean, social media, like you said, it leaves a print, a digital print.
Right.
That the stuff we did is memories. I don't remember.
Right.
So you just have
I remember. That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
You're not getting the same rope that we had. So
Right.
you have to be cognizant of that, and anything less that's naive, right? I'll get a pass, I'll get a deal, a very competitive job market. There's too many people, not enough good paying jobs. I'm gonna cut that list down, go look at their Facebook page. We go from 100 to 50, just like that. So you have to have this conversation. Young people who are sophisticated will understand it's in the towers, it's everywhere. You have to, because the margin error today is so small and you're black. So you don't have that margin that we had because it's all on the phone. You have to be mindful. That's why I believe in social media classes and, have a class where they can show this is how this stuff's tracked. Everything you do, and you got to show it. And I think we have the more social media critical thinking classes now because everything is through social media. That's a legitimate course from day one all through college and high school. Social media literacy. And they can show you how they trace towers and this and that and all this tech. Let them see it. That might make them a little more informed. And, well, you know what? Let's, put the phones away. Let's really think about that.
Right. And so there's only a tiny margin of folks who are, I guess I'll call them off the grid thinkers who are just like, no, I don't have social media because I don't want anything that I do to be tracked, right?
Yeah.
And that's good, that's fine. And then there are folks who are just like, oh, the heck with it, you're gonna die from something, whatever. I'm gonna live my life. But then when you're trying, then you are gonna be living in your mother's basement or your father's basement or your grandparents' basement because your parents are gonna be like, no, sweetie, I told you how to do it. You didn't want to do it. You got to go. I love you, but I'm gonna have to love you from afar. And just say, okay, now what am I gonna do? Now, I'm hanging outside on or whatever corner, and now I'm upset, right? But at what point do you? And so now this is like I think the last statement that happened. Like in essence, like who are we pointing a finger at? Are we pointing a finger at like blacks? And I think you said like blacks who say to other blacks that like it's your responsibility. Like it's your responsibility to sort of like pull yourself up. Who said that?
Booker T. Washington.
Booker T. Washington. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, or are you going to continue to say, it's the man's problem? At some point, and this is where I said I agree with your point, and I agree a bit with the other person's point. There's no one person. Everybody has to pull their own weight. You cannot say that you're still sitting, in this particular location because somebody else did everything to you. What did you do? What did you do? If you went along to get along and you didn't try to improve your lot, whatever access that you have to resources that are around you, and try to make a change, at least show that you're trying to make a change. Okay. But if you just sit there and say, I'm not going to study, and then here it is, you can't get out of middle school, you get socially promoted, and then you get socially promoted from high school, you're 18, 19, but you only have a 4th grade education, and then you say, I can't get a job, and it's the man's fault. No, did you go to school? Did you study? Did you, what? Oh, it's their fault. No, it's not. No.
Well, I'd like to add, so if you right, so I see that argument, right? So the argument is, more black kids go to college now than ever, 90% high school graduation rate. So this notion of restorative justice, right? So the point is that people make mistakes, But because our system is not equitable, there are white kids doing all what you're saying and getting double, triple deals again. Now, one can say that's what they do, or we fight to ensure it's equitable. So it's one of those things where we fight to ensure that when we talk about equity, it's like Chris Rock said, you know what full equality is? When black folks can make mistakes. Then rebound. So that's the challenge. So while, yes, individual people error, but there's a system that is making it doubly hard, and we have to fight both ends, right? Those who want to counsel individuals, but who's going to fight for when I do make a mistake? Who's going to fight this to ensure that there's equitable restorative justice? Look at those January 6 people. Man, they were on bail. They are chilling. They broke rules. But why are we so hard on black people?
Right.
These folks, they're going on vacation, deals, insurrectionists.
Right.
So my thing is, this person made a mistake. We told you black people, blah. Okay, I get that. But these folks did way more. And equitable society says, okay, you messed up in high school. Things happen, sometimes trauma, whatever. Here's another chance. Unfortunately, we like to beat up on these people. And what they're trying to say is, I know a white guy who did worse than me. Now he heads the union. So we got to make sure there's equitable, restorative justice, in addition to the stories about working doubly hard. But there's a system. And unfortunately, it's easy to, I know I've seen that argument, but I've seen a whole lot of other deals from a whole lot of folks.
Right.
And it's time that we ensure we do. And I think that's where we lose that argument, right? Where there's individuals, but most black folk are trying to do the right thing. I got the data, I believe it, but it's this system that just is like, and we have to make sure we fight to make sure when you do make a mistake, when something in high school happens, whatever, because I'm telling you, there's white guys doing this every day. They don't lose any sleep. They're getting deals upon deals upon deals. Yep. And I think when people try to say that, can't say, and they get frustrated because we're not listening. Just do this. I tried that. There's a guy down the street who did the same exact thing, and he's the union boss. I don't care about white people. I'm talking to you, and that's where you get frustrated. So it's kind of like, we have this case by case, but I definitely know that I see the systemic. I can find individuals who, obviously everybody can all do better, but I think we got to find that balance in there in terms of, I understand, let's go fight the unions. Let's go fight to ensure this equity, these programs. Because I'm telling you, a lot of these white guys, we grew up come on now, who are the police officers in New York? I grew up with them guys. They're the sharpest pencil in the box. Their uncle was in there. Their brother was in there. They get in there and do their 35 years. They messed up in high school. They did this, they did that. But we kept chastising the dude. Yo, you this, you that. And these guys will float through the system.
Right.
If you put half the energy on the system, those dudes would be better back in the neighborhood. As much energy put into chastising, let's put half into where we see the racism in the police department, the fire department, and city work. I live in New York. I've seen them. Hey, the fire department, that's a good job. You just don't walk in there.
Right. And so actually, then I think that's a part of our conversation. So now, of course, we've talked about, we've had this bell curve, right? We sort of talked about the initial, the anticipatory set, right? So now we've gotten to the height of the conversation. So we're going to come on the downslope and say what next? Come on, we educated, right? We're going to do is we're going to bring it on home. We're going to get to the exit ticket.
Here we go.
We're going to get to the exit ticket. So now what now, right? Of course, this is of course just touching the topic, touching the tip of the iceberg. But for those of you who have just come in, we're going to try to swing this on home. And again, this is Doriel Enes Larry of Larry's Education Resource Network, where I plant seeds to help you grow. You know that this is my weekly digital couch conversation. Tonight I'm talking to David Canton, Dr. David Canton. Thank you very much. And so you're also leading a department now. Tell us that great news.
So I've been hired. I'm the director of the program. So the goal is to transition to a department. So we know when Black Studies started, San Francisco State, 1968, year I was born, department. And we know in higher ed, departments have the power to grant tenure. That's the key game. So we know in 1987, Malefi Asante started a PhD program at Tubman University. In other words, he understood higher ed. That tenure in my game is like seniority in the unions. I mean, once you're a department, so right now we're a program. So, for example, when you're a program with hiring, because you're not a department, it's complicated. So the
Okay.
goal now is we're hiring 5 tenure track faculty this
Beautiful.
year. That's step one. The next, you got to transform the curriculum to make sure all the classes match up with the state requirements, all that bureaucracy stuff. And then you apply to become a department. So
Okay.
it's a process. Once you're a department, now I can grant tenure to people in the department, which means job for life. Once you have tenure, then you can become an administrator. Now you're in the policy level, admissions, diversity. See, it's a game. It's like
Lovely.
chess. You
Yep.
see, and I've been studying this thing. So I study how Asante built this program. I look
Yes.
at how he built his, get top faculty. I look how they build it, how they survive, how they, fell off. So a lot of it is, again, like studying civil rights like I do. It's a community thing. Call the dean, check up on us, come to our events, just drop them a line like a politician. And when they see that, okay, they're doing big things. There might be 8 people at the event. They don't even know that. It's a great event. And so we have to
take the picture from the right angle.
There you go. It's all, yeah. So once they see that, because we're in a public university and politics, it becomes red. The state legislators look at these budgets. They don't like higher ed in the first place because of tenure and it's more progressive. So we're just stealing money and making kids liberal. I'm telling them how to be like me, which is not true, making them critical thinkers. So we have to show with ethnic studies and race studies and Black studies that, we're doing this thing. And that's where the community comes in with the emails, come to the events. This is great. I've learned a lot. Blah, blah. Have student testimonials. Right. I graduated. This was the best. So I push that on students all the time is make sure you follow up. An email matters. I'm telling you.
Now they can hashtag it.
Whatever they want to do. As long as that gets back to upstairs, we're good. And that's how when they start that chopping block, you can't come this way. You got 1 million emails. When they talk about giving more lines, hey, these folks are full. The classes are full. So I'm working with different constituencies to increase our Black student enrollment. And what I'm trying to tell them, you come here is like going HBCU-ish. I'm pushing that, right? I don't care if you're a STEM major, take one of our classes. Good. Let us mentor you. Just come through. Go to the Black Culture Center. Get some wings. Relax. You know what I mean? Let us help mentor you and stuff.
Get some wings.
Those departments can be hostile.
Right.
Let us work with you. What do you need? Let me give you information, office hours or this. I want it to be that centerpiece where you're taking a minimum 1 course. Come on through. Kick it around. I don't care your science and STEM, whatever. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
You need some balance.
But we're building a community, and then we serve that function where everyone's coming through, whether a class, an event, a relationship, that just blows up our profile. Beautiful. So you don't have to major, but you shouldn't walk through 4 years you have not taken. Come on now, 1 course. Come on now. I don't tolerate that no more. Well, I'm a science major, blah, blah. No, 1 course. Come on now. 1 intro.
Right. Wait, listen. So if it's science, then just holler at Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bring him down from Manhattan. Bring him down. Bring him down. He'll come down.
But now, see, once we get the leverage, then we can start pushing that into the curriculum, make it a requirement. Get on the science people, say, listen, we got proof that now they're taking the grades are going up. Y'all got to change up that curriculum because there's too much science 1930. So that's why when it's a community event and we do these things, now you have leverage. More Black students are successful because they're taking this class, but because of certain majors, y'all need to switch that up because this works. Put that in their calendar. You got to drop something or whatever y'all need to do. Make it happen because this is working. We're seeing great improvement. We're seeing all this from that 1 class. So you got to loosen requirements. Whatever you need to do, make it happen. So that's the ultimate long-term plan of my vision because I've been in higher ed 20 years and you study this stuff. You say, okay, it's a chess game. It's not this, and we think the university is this ideal ideas. It's no different than corporate America. They just play differently. Civility, nice words, but they'll get you. So you got to be on top of the game. Don't let that civility fool you. It's a game. And that's why I think I've learned and studied by some mentors and you sit down, poker face and Booker T stuff. The boys, you got to pull a little this, pull a little that. And that's how it works.
Right out the back pocket.
You think anything different, you're going to be disappointed. Then you can be all in your feelings. And this and that. And he told me this. Okay, I'm telling you. It's tough out in these streets out here. Everyone's fighting for resources and a tough economy. that's when people's true colors come out. When the economy stinks, we get tight. When there's money, everyone, like my dad said, David, when there's money, folks are more open and liberal. You don't get parking tickets, but when the money's tight, they give you, the city needs revenue. They give you parking tickets. When there's money flushing, they let you go. When the money get tight, I need revenue coming in.
Wow.
That's capitalism. So you have to come in with that mentality. Even though we're a nonprofit, you still want a positive net revenue.
Precisely. And as we say, we need revenue generating activities.
Yes.
So in the world of Rona, we'll just sit here for a quick second. How do you think that, again, our focus is on let's say language acquisition, or AAVE, and its place in whether it be the academic room, the boardroom, the classroom, the I'll say the local bodega.
Right.
You know, here it is. I go to school, and of course I'm a camel all day. I go to con. I come back. I walk into my local bodega, and I'm just like, so you know that these quarter waters, everybody knows what a quarter water is. It's everybody who's watching this better drop quarter water down in the comments. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
The teeny weenies, okay, right? The blue juice, the orange juice. There ain't no fruit that's blue.
Nah, it's just water.
None, right? Okay. But and I go and I say, how come like Evian isn't sold here? I need Evian. Now, little side note, I don't drink Evian, but I'm just saying it's the point.
I got you.
Right. And so, but when I bring that up to the people who I still have to come home to, they're just like, child, you acting white. You know good and well we ain't got no Evian in this. I said, but the fact that I've asked for it, and then other people ask for it, now there's Evian. Who moved that cheese? Who moved that cheese? Is it me who says I've seen something different? I'm introducing it into my community, and then my community balks at me. The same thing is said by someone of a different hue, and everyone's like, ah. How does that then make me feel? How does that give me my self-worth, that even though I do learn additional languages to use so that I can navigate, right, the social spaces, I'm trying to use all the appropriate words, navigate social spaces, and then I am told, which is I think part of this article or part of this op-ed moment, it's, oh, why you gotta be all extra? And then the same thing is said by the people who we're trying to say, they're trying to hold me down, and they say it, and then it's like, like shining down gold coins. So the people who do learn a multiplicity of dialects and codified words and speech patterns, right, like I'm doing now, right? We don't elevate. Now this is linguistic, right? We don't elevate the end of our sentences. We drop the end of our sentences.
Right.
Culturally, we do that.
Right.
And hearing those phrases and getting those additional terms of endearment, depending on what you're talking about, there are times that we, and I'll say we as in a you and I in this moment, we, and this is how we, just going back to the beginning of our conversation, we sort of get like, remember where you came from. Well, I know where I came from. I'm back here doing my thing, and I'm trying to bring more people, and I'm trying to be careful with my words, to add on to their vocabulary that which will help you also navigate different spaces.
Okay.
Not making you better.
Right.
Just adding to your dialect so that when you walk into particular rooms, if you think you're going to continue to force people to just, well, they got to understand what I say, how I say it. No, they don't. Now, if you're going to build your own room and I don't know who said it, you probably know better than I, if they won't let you into the room or if they won't let you at the table, what do? You build your own bench, or whatever that phrase is. If you have the resources and, like you said, the capital or the collaborations to do so, go on with your bad self. Go on and do that darn thing. But if you do not, please learn how to play the games. Please learn the additional language patterns. Learn them.
And I like to add, I think we're going back to the post where it says act white, right? So we say about, I call it white worshiping. So what happens, whether the Avion water or healthy food, we assume all white people are healthy. Wrong. All white people are vegans. Wrong. All white people drink Avion. Most white people. So again, when you say the white word, they become this unconscious standard. So again, when we go back to those posts, right? You're putting a color on a certain type of water. Most white people are not vegans. White people are overweight. There's white criminals. There's white folks that don't go to college. There's white poor people. So assuming all white people is middle class standard is a mistake.
Right.
So we want to get that out of mind and stop saying stuff like that. I like this type of water, or you like whatever. Most white folks probably don't like because it's too expensive too, or too whatever. So I think what I call white worshiping, just get to a point where you're not totally absolved and obsessed with, that is norm stuff. They're human beings, are issues like everybody else, that we're focused on what brings our full humanity out. And if you like to swim, you like whatever you like to do to make you the best person you can do, I'm good with it, rather than racializing it. And if I don't I don't particularly like potato salad, I just can't get into it. Any less African American anybody, I just can't get into it.
I'm sorry.
Grandmother make a good one. Everyone's told me that. I can't do it. I just can't get into it.
Let me call you out.
Oh,
you ain't black. You ain't black.
I can't do it. I can do potato pie, the greens, I can do mac and cheese, and all that. I just cannot with the sweet potato salad.
It's the mayonnaise. I know. Somebody put too much relish in it for you. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry.
So those are things that that we talk about. My hip hop class, we talk about the white worshiping, and and we gotta get to the point. Just be you, be free. Don't worry about, man, what they gonna think and this and all this, white that. Trust me, what you think is wrong. Most don't listen to opera. Most don't graduate from college. A lot of them are poor. A lot got issues. Relax. Do what makes you do. And I think our community needs to get to that point where it frees the young people up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of young people, because of these stereotypes, don't excel what they want to do because that's what white people do. No, live. That's what human beings do.
Right.
Do that. You know what I mean? That's what human beings do. And stop putting that box. You know what I mean? So those are the type of things, again, my son played hockey and stuff. And, I don't know how to skate, but he liked hockey. I'm not going to say, you should be hooping.
Okay.
No, he liked to play hockey. Okay, go for it. So
excellent.
Just try to, what they're passionate about. Don't put no color. There's no color on passion. Passion is human. Come on now. You like that, right? There's no color on passion.
I like that.
I just made that up. You can take that.
Watch me repost that. That is a great takeaway. So I guess on that note, I will probably share that I have two tiny examples that I experienced at Con. And this is actually not a Con thing. It is being a Black student from Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And not just saying I'm a Black student from Brooklyn and it puts me into a box. It really just says my racial identity, and it says where I was born when I came out my mother's womb. Basically, that's it. Mm-hmm. But coming to a PWI, those of you all who don't know what PWI is, it is private white institution, like the school that I went.
Right.
My first two introductions were to something that I grew to love and something that I already loved. It was not necessarily represented by people in my racial group, but I was allowed to step out of the box and to try something different. So shout out, and I know she's going to see this, shout out to Annie Scott, who is an alum of Con, who's a camel, and my big sister had found me at my high school, Erasmus Hall High School, or E Hall every day. And they said, you know what, you would be great as a coxswain.
Oh yeah, that's the fun in the boat. We yell it.
That's what. Thank you very much. Yes, I had a big mouth, and I could fit in that tiny part of the boat. Then
Mhm.
I cannot now. Um, and I literally was yelling at the guys, saying, "This is where you row."
Right.
They were like the only other person who was a black coxswain prior to me that I know of is actually Dr. Lois, who's
Mhm.
also part of the Alumni Association. And when I met her, and I was like,
In
"Oh my
Florida.
God, huh?"
She's in Florida.
She's in Florida, right? And so when I
Mhm.
met her and she's like, "Oh, you're a coxswain." I was a coxswain. I was like, "Oh my gosh," because nobody else from my community knew what that was. They
Yep.
thought I was cursing at them or
Mhm.
using profanity, just like I thought she was using at me. I'm like, "No, I'm not cursing. It's a role in a sport, right?" And
Mhm.
then the other one was being an a cappella singer for the Swifts. So shout out to the Swifts, the She, Whiff, and Poofs, which is basically a white female a cappella singing group. I sung, raised in my church choir, shout out to my church. But I
Mhm.
also then joined this group where in 60 years at the time that I joined, guess how many black people there were before me?
0, 1, 2. Okay, I was a little close. Got you.
I was the third black female in the group in
Mhm.
60 years.
Right.
But it was so right in those two situations, passion had no color. And yes, I didn't stick out like the sore thumb. I was the beautiful chip in the cookie. Black
Mhm.
people know what that means, and I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. But I also attempted to shift the dynamic and to say this is something that I was passionate about. And did they let me come in and talk my talk?
Yeah.
Sure. Did they listen? Did they embrace? Yes, they did. And they also knew if we don't let her in, she's not going to give up.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, yes, if you are passionate about something, great, go ahead and do it. Understand, though, that depending on the room that you're in, and sometimes you may not know, and this is part of my closing remarks, if you do not know what spaces you are in, step back, look around, ask questions, and also feel the sincerity of people in the group.
Right.
30 years ago, when, Dr. David and myself, when we were on the yard, whatever that yard looked like. His was at Morehouse, mine was on Route 32.
Mhm.
We had to navigate, even though we were in diametrically opposed, well, not diametrically opposed, but opposite ends of the racial spectrum in terms of higher education. But we still had to sort of figure out like, where do I fit in?
Yeah, because
And
HBCU's class is real, right? So I had Bill Cosby's son, rest in peace. You had the third generation, Maynard Jackson's daughter's a Spelman, David Satcher's daughter. This class is real. So I hung out with a lot of first gen New York City kids. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I didn't have the resources to hang with the third generation Atlanta rich Beamer guys. I couldn't afford them all. So class is real. Jack and Jill, I never heard of Jack and Jill. My
right,
parents were Black Greeks. So class is real. So wherever you go, because Black folks are not monolithic, you're
right,
still trying to figure out HBCU. Where do I fit? The suburban Black kid in the white school come here, they got to find the space, so
right,
everyone's dealing with these issues, you know what I mean? So that's why I tell HBCUs are not monolithic. You're
right,
going to find the space. A lot of it's based on class, region, other different things, and you're
right,
going to gravitate towards similar backgrounds that you were socialized in.
right,
That's how it works, you know what I mean? But don't mean you bet anybody.
right.
That's
It
how it
just
works.
means you,
Then over time, you're going to spread because you have confidence in yourself. You'll spread your wings in terms of, I'm going to hang out with this group. I'm going to socialize this group and this group. So, yeah, we're all figuring stuff out in college. I don't care, black college, white college. That's part of being a human being.
right, right. And so I definitely want to say thank you so much. Thank you
Thank you.
so
It's a
much.
great platform. Keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Ooh, I think is there a hold on a second. That's interesting. Oh, you know what it did? There was a reverb from a tab that I had open. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, right. So I was actually from one of your speech in
Oh,
2013, 2014.
oh wow. Okay.
I think so. Yeah, I had the tab open, so I must have touched something. But anyway,
Gotcha.
so for those of you who are still here, thank you so much. There's like a number of people who are actually still chilling with us. I really appreciate it. So let
Okay.
me end by saying, hey, listen, talk that talk. Whatever that talk is that you were raised with, whatever the community, the social structure, the social construct, the whatever part of the block, part of
Mm.
the railroad that or side of the railroad that you were brought up in, talk that talk and just understand that yes, because if you grew up in AAVE, right, African American Vernacular English, am I saying it right?
Hmm.
You know, There are, of course, a multiplicity of other languages within English, right? Because even people from Brooklyn, people from Bed-Stuy speak differently than people from Flatbush. I'm Flatbush, right? But lived in Bed-Stuy. People, you're in the Bronx. If I say something that we say in Brooklyn and I don't say, y'all don't say it in the Bronx, there's a different thing, right? But learn the language of and be proud of it. But then also learn that wherever you go, you do have to learn a different language. Not that you have to deny that what you were raised in,
right?
But adopt different vernacular, adopt different codes of speaking so that you can be heard.
Yeah.
So that you can be heard. Yes, you can try to force somebody just to understand your codes. That's fine. But there's still a glass. There's still a glass that you can either look through or you can walk through. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You make the choice. Once again, this is Doriel Inez, Larrier of Larrier's Education and Resource Network. Say your final comments, Dr. David Canton.
You said it all there. Everybody have a good night, good week, good 2021. Social distancing, wear the mask. The pandemic is real, and we'll probably be in touch sometime in the future.
Peace and love. Have a good night, and I'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye-bye.